Hi everyone, welcome to Lentamania tutorial. My name is Anna Sachno. Today we are going to knit a cute and cozy hanging basket. You can use such basket to store some small goodies or decorative accessories. The basket has a handle, so you can hang it on a hook or put it on a shelf if you like. It looks cute either way. Such baskets are also a great way to decorate children's room. The basket we are knitting today is 12 cm wide and 20 cm high together with a handle. So as you can see, it's not too big and fits into my hands just perfectly. You won't need much yarn for it. I think about 30 meters will do. I used a 7mm crochet hook and a stitch marker to mark the beginning and end of the row. This pretty knitting yarn, cotton rope and needles you can find in my online store. The link you'll find under this video. To start knitting our basket, we'll make a slip knot, as if we were knitting a circle. Once it's ready, slip the hook under the first strand, draw the yarn edge, and make a chain stitch. Then again, slip the hook under both strands of our slip knot. Draw the yarn and make 2 stitches. It's called single crochet. Then repeat once again. Insert the hook into the slip knot, draw the strand, and knit 2 loops together. So now we have a chain, which looks like braids on top. And we need to repeat that until we have 6 braids. So we're repeatedly inserting the hook into the slip knot, knitting 2 loops together until we get these 6 braids on top. So I've made my 6 braids, and now I need to turn this row into a circle. For that, I'm taking the yarn end and pulling it to tighten up my slip knot and make a circle. So now it's almost a circle, and I need either to join the stitches and close it up or start knitting the second row right away. It's called knitting in spiral rounds. This time I prefer knitting in rounds because I want to hide the seam. On such baskets it's visible from all sides and you better hide it. So to avoid the seam, I'm going to insert the hook into the first stitch that we've made. Then I'm drawing the strand and knitting 2 loops together. This is how I've made the first stitch of the second row. Now I'm going to work back into the same stitch and knit another stitch, another single crochet. So insert the hook right into the same place and make another single crochet. And that's how we've got a double stitch. We knitted 2 stitches out of 1. We're going to double the next stitch in this row as well. Insert the hook under the braid, draw the hook, and knit 2 loops together. Insert the hook into the same stitch once again, draw the yarn, and knit 2 loops together again. So we've knitted 2 stitches out of 1, and we've doubled it. That's what we're going to do with each stitch of the second row. Insert the hook, draw the yarn, and make the second single crochet. Go on knitting 2 stitches again. You can use a stitch marker to mark the first stitch at the beginning. We've already moved away from the first stitch and now it's clearly visible, our first single crochet. You can mark it with a stitch marker so that you don't lose the beginning of the row and mistake the spot. So when we go on knitting double stitches, we will double the next stitch as well. Now there is only one stitch left before the stitch marker, and we're knitting double stitches into it. So it means we are knitting 2 stitches, 2 single crochets into 1 stitch. There we go. The second row is ready. Now we're going to knit the third row, making a flat circle. The wider is the circle, the bigger is our basket. To keep the shape of the circle, I'm not going to double every stitch in the third row. I'm going to double every other stitch. For example, I'm doubling the first stitch, let's mark it with the stitch marker right away. So this is the beginning of our third row. And I will not double the next stitch. I will insert the hook into the stitch just once, like that. But the next stitch has to be doubled, because I want to keep the circle flat. Just like that. And then a single stitch again. So like that, we continue to alternate double and single stitches until we get to the stitch marker. I've reached the first stitch of the third row. I don't want my basket to be too big. That's why the next row of my circle will be the last one. But you can keep on adding rows and make your basket bigger using the same principle. The principle is the following. So now in my fourth row, I'm going to knit a double stitch after 2 single stitches. It means in every row we are adding a single stitch between double stitches. So in the 5th row there will be 3 single stitches between the double ones, 4 single stitches in the 6th row, and so on. Again, the 4th row is going to be the last row of my basket base. And in this row I'm going to alternate 2 single stitches with 1 double. So the first stitch is ready. And now I'm going to knit another single stitch. Like that. And then I need to knit a double stitch. So I'm inserting the hook into the same slot and doubling my stitch. Now 2 single stitches again, then 1 double. I think you've got the idea. So keep on knitting as much as you want. It's totally up to you. I've knitted 4 rows, and in the 5th one I'm starting to knit the walls of my basket. Our basket will resemble a sack, and to achieve this effect you need to start knitting rows without accented increase. So it means knit a single crochet into each separate stitch. By doing so, you are smoothly moving on to knitting the walls, and the basket will gradually start resembling a sack. Our bag has rather elongated shape, and that's why we'll always have to triple one of the stitches on the back side while knitting the walls. I suggest tripling the first stitch of the row. In this case, we won't get confused and always know which stitch has to be tripled. It's easier for you to remember, and you'll always know where the tripling is required. So we're going to need 3 stitches into the first stitch of the row. 1, 2, and 3. With this technique, this part of the basket will be elongated over time, and it will take the shape of a teardrop. And now I'm not going to mark the first stitch of the row, this one, but I'm going to mark the middle stitch, just to show you the stitch we will need to triple the next time. And since there are 3 stitches, to achieve symmetry, it's worth tripling the middle stitch to get symmetrical elongation. So we've knitted the triple stitch into the first stitch of the row, and now we simply go on knitting single stitches into every stitch. The first row of my walls is ready, and now I'm approaching the marked stitch, and it means that I need to knit 3 stitches into this stitch. I need to triple it. And again, once I've knitted 3 stitches into one, I'm marking the middle stitch to know where to knit 3 stitches instead of 1 next time. In the next row of my walls, I'll knit a single crochet into every stitch just in the same way. So 2 more rows. So there will be 3 so-called standard rows, and the 4th row will knit the other way around in a slightly different way, decreasing stitches, but we'll get there a bit later. So I've knitted 3 rows of my walls. As you can see, I've tripled the necessary stitch in the 4th row as well, but this one will be a bit different from the previous rows. So in particular, we'll knit single stitches until we get to this part of our basket, which will be our front. We'll need these 10 stitches on the front of our basket with decreases. It means we'll turn 2 stitches into 1, and I'm going to show you how to do that. But until we get there, we'll continue knitting single stitches, a single crochet into each stitch. By the way, if you are knitting a bigger basket, if you've knitted more rows for your base, you'll probably need to add more rows to your walls, because you want your basket to look balanced. And also, as a result, you'll have to decrease more front stitches. And right now we need to understand where to start decreasing to maintain the symmetry. So to do that, we may flatten the basket a bit like that, so that the high part of the basket is right in the middle. To have symmetrical decreases, I need to start decreasing from this stitch. I'm going to mark this stitch with the stitch marker so that you could see and understand what I'm doing. So that's the place where we start decreasing. I'm knitting 1 more single stitch. Here is my stitch marker. And now I'm going to show you how to make a nice looking decrease. Most of you probably know how to make a standard decrease. You insert the hook, draw the strand, insert the hook into the next single crochet without knitting, draw the loop again, and then knit these loops on the hook together, but it doesn't look as good as the way I'm going to show you. Once you have 3 loops on the hook, you draw the last loop through the second last loop, and voila, there are 2 loops on the hook which you knit as a standard single crochet, just like that. Repeat that over the next stitches. Insert the hook into both loops of the stitch, but do not knit. Insert the hook into the next stitch. Draw the yarn, but don't knit anything together. Just draw the last loop through the second last loop, and then knit 2 loops on the hook as a single crochet. That's how it looks. Try not to stretch too much here. Avoid having holes that are too big. Holes are of course inevitable, but try to keep them as small as possible. We need to knit another 4 stitches. So just like that. As a result, we'll narrow the front of our basket a little bit. And the basket will start resembling the teardrop. Go on knitting single crochets until you get to the triple stitch. As soon as we get there, we'll need to knit our hook, the hook of the basket. So we've reached the stitch that we usually triple, but this time we won't triple it. We'll remove the marker. We won't need it anymore. Then make a single crochet in the marked stitch, and then start knitting a chain of 10 chain stitches. So this is our tail. Now insert the hook into this middle stitch and make another single crochet. Now we need to finish our basket. This was actually our last row. And to make this part look prettier and more interesting, the place of the basket hook connection is wrapped around with yarn. Now I'm going to cut a long tail, about 15 centimeters. And then I'm pulling it out with a hook. Here we are. And then once we've cut the yarn, we are straightening the strand and start wrapping it around the connecting point in several layers. So you can make as many layers as you like. When it's wrapped, the tip of the strand has to be on the back of the basket. Here we'll need our hook once again, and preferably of a smaller size. I'm using a 3mm hook. So I'm slipping it under all of my layers. And then I'm pulling the tail out at the bottom. If you want to make sure the tail never comes out and ruins your beautiful wrapping, you can sew it to the basket with regular threads. The color of threads should of course match the color of the yarn. But I'll just leave the tail, making it almost invisible. I'm going to leave the wrapping alone at this point. So here's our cute little basket. It can be hung or used to store some small goodies. The basket of such bright color, this time I chose pink, will look great in children's room, and if you choose some quieter colors, more basic ones like gray, such basket can decorate your kitchen, living room or any other room if you want. I hope you've enjoyed this tutorial. Please like and subscribe to my channel. Cotton rope, knitting yarn, and crochet hooks required for such cute basket can be found in my online store lentamania.ru. I'll leave the link below this video. If this tutorial was helpful, please click the link to support my channel. Your donations help me to develop it and translate the tutorials to different languages. Thank you and bye bye!